Don't forget to subscribe. Enjoy your viewing.
I always believed that love was unwavering and certain, that the bonds I shared with my wife Rebecca were unbreakable. For years, our life together had been a testament to our dedication, until one day, a series of unforeseen events unraveled the tapestry of our shared history. I discovered that the woman I loved, the one I trusted implicitly, had betrayed me in ways I never thought possible. The revelation came suddenly, like a bolt of lightning splitting the sky, and in that instant, my world shifted on its axis. It began with small, inexplicable details. I noticed Rebecca's long phone calls at odd hours, hushed whispers that ended as soon as I entered the room, and a mysterious air of secrecy that clung to her like a shadow. At first, I brushed these off as remnants of stress at her new job or the natural ebb and flow of a busy life. But as the signs grew more frequent, I felt an unsettling knot forming in my stomach, a premonition that something was terribly amiss. One rainy evening, as I returned home early from work, I found the living room in disarray. Papers were scattered across the floor and personal items lay haphazardly around, as if a storm had passed through our once orderly home. In the midst of the chaos, I discovered a series of cryptic notes tucked away in a drawer. Each note contained snippets of conversation, a name here or a time there, details that, when pieced together, painted an unmistakable picture of betrayal. My heart pounded in my chest as I realized that my worst fears were coming true. Rebecca had been unfaithful. Overwhelmed by a mix of sorrow, anger, and confusion, I spent sleepless nights grappling with the reality of her infidelity. Questions flooded my mind. Who was she with? When had this betrayal begun? And most painful of all, why had she chosen to deceive me, the man who had always given her his heart? Determined to uncover the truth, I began a solitary quest for answers. I retraced our steps together, examining every memory in detail of our past, seeking clues that might explain how our love had become tainted by deceit. My investigation led me down a winding path of hidden meetings and secret rendezvous. I discovered that Rebecca had been spending time with a man named Adrian, a name that reverberated in my thoughts like a relentless echo. Adrian was described in discreet messages and furtive phone calls. He was a shadowy figure who had woven himself into her life without my knowledge. The more I learned, the more I realized that the affair was not a simple lapse in judgment but a carefully orchestrated deception that spanned months, perhaps even years. Each discovery felt like a fresh wound, and yet, amid the turmoil, there emerged unexpected twists that defied simple explanation. I recalled a recent incident when Rebecca had abruptly left a dinner party, citing a vague emergency. At the time, I had believed it to be nothing more than a minor inconvenience. Now, it took on a sinister quality, a calculated move to avoid suspicion. And then there were the moments of inexplicable kindness, when she would gaze at me with an expression that mixed regret and affection, as if silently pleading for forgiveness before the truth could shatter the fragile veneer of our life together. In the solitude of my grief, I began to question not only her fidelity but also my own judgment. Had I been blind to her signs? Was I so consumed by my own routines that I had failed to notice the subtle hints of her growing distance? These questions tormented me relentlessly, leaving me adrift in a sea of self-doubt and introspection. It was in these moments of despair that I realized the importance of confronting the painful reality head-on rather than burying it under layers of denial and regret. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself at a crossroads. The urge to confront Rebecca battled with my desire to understand the full scope of her betrayal. Every conversation, every shared glance now felt loaded with hidden meaning, as if our past had become a cryptic map leading to an unknown destination. I recalled the laughter we once shared, the dreams we had woven together, and the promises we had made in quieter times. Yet, those memories now seemed to belong to someone else, a distant ideal that could no longer reconcile with the person who stood before me, cloaked in secrecy and remorse. Determined to find clarity, I resolved to confront both Rebecca and Adrian, to demand answers and closure even if it meant shattering the remnants of the life I had known. The thought of confronting Adrian filled me with an unfamiliar mixture of dread and resolve. I wondered if he was merely a catalyst in our unraveling or a willing participant in a larger game that I had never been privy to. I began to document every piece of evidence, screenshots of messages, photographs of secret meetings, and even testimonies from mutual acquaintances, each item a testament to a truth that I could no longer ignore. I knew that the road ahead would be fraught with painful revelations and bitter confrontations. However, as I gathered the fragments of our broken past, I also discovered a hidden strength within myself, a determination to reclaim my narrative and rebuild a future free from deceit. It was a journey of self-discovery, marked by moments of fierce anger, sorrowful reflection, and even reluctant gratitude for the lessons learned. I recognized that betrayal, as devastating as it was, had a peculiar way of unearthing parts of oneself that had long lain dormant. In the crucible of heartache, I found the courage to face my own imperfections and the resolve to transform my pain into a catalyst for growth. In those long, agonizing nights, I began to write, pouring my heart into words that chronicled the slow disintegration of our love and the tumultuous path toward self-acceptance. Each sentence became a step toward healing, a declaration of resilience in the face of overwhelming betrayal. I envisioned a future where I could look back on these dark days not with bitterness, but with the wisdom that comes from surviving the storm. Though the journey was far from over, I vowed to emerge stronger, more attuned to the truth of my own heart, and ready to embrace a life defined not by the shadows of the past but by the promise of a brighter tomorrow. And so, as I stand on the threshold of this new chapter, I remain haunted by the ghost of what once was, yet empowered by the knowledge that even in the wake of betrayal, there is the possibility of rebirth. The story of Rebecca's infidelity is not merely one of heartbreak and loss, it is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a reminder that even in our darkest moments, hope can be found, and new beginnings are always within reach. The days following my painful discovery were a blur of anger and disbelief. I oscillated between a desperate need for confrontation and an unwillingness to shatter the fragile remnants of the life I once cherished. Every step I took was laden with a heavy mixture of sorrow and determination, and I found myself compelled to dig deeper into the mystery that had overtaken my existence. In the early hours of a chilly autumn morning, I sat alone in my study, poring over the evidence I had gathered. Every text message, every whispered conversation, and every secret rendezvous painted a portrait of a betrayal that was as intricate as it was painful. It was during one of these long, solitary nights that a spark of resolve ignited within me. I realized that simply knowing the truth was not enough, I needed to confront it head-on. The next step, I decided, was to arrange a meeting with someone who might have further insight into Rebecca's clandestine life, her closest friend, Eleanor. Eleanor was someone who had known Rebecca for many years, and I hoped that her perspective might shed light on the circumstances that led to this betrayal. I reached out to her with a mixture of trepidation and determination, requesting that we meet at a quiet cafe downtown, a place where confessions and truths were often exchanged in hushed tones. When we finally met, the air between us was charged with an unspoken tension. Eleanor's eyes, usually warm and kind, betrayed a glimmer of guilt as she hesitantly agreed to reveal what she knew. Over steaming cups of coffee, Eleanor recounted snippets of conversations and late-night meetings that she had witnessed between Rebecca and a man named Adrian. She spoke of secretive glances, whispered plans, and moments when Rebecca seemed almost possessed by a passion that she had never shown before. The details were both shocking and heartbreaking. Eleanor admitted that she had tried to dissuade Rebecca from the affair, urging her to confront the issues in her marriage before things spiraled out of control. Yet, her pleas had fallen on deaf ears, and the affair had only grown more insidious with time. Armed with this new perspective, I felt a renewed sense of urgency. My next course of action was to seek out Adrian, the elusive man who had invaded my life. With Eleanor's cautious hints as my guide, I discovered that Adrian was not just a random interloper, but a man with a complex history and questionable motives of his own. Rumors circulated about his own tangled web of deceit, a past filled with broken promises and transient romances that left destruction in their wake. It seemed that his presence in Rebecca's life was no mere accident, but rather the result of a calculated seduction. One fateful evening, I found myself outside a dimly lit bar in the heart of the city, a place where Adrian was said to frequent. The neon lights flickered against the wet pavement as I hesitated at the entrance, the weight of the confrontation pressing down on me. With a deep breath, I stepped inside, my eyes scanning the room for any sign of the man who had so profoundly altered the course of my life. In the murmur of the crowd, I finally spotted him, a man whose confident demeanor and piercing gaze set him apart from the rest. Summoning all my courage, I approached Adrian, my heart pounding in my chest like a relentless drum. He looked up at me with an expression that was part surprise, part guarded curiosity. The conversation that ensued was terse and charged with emotion. I demanded to know his role in the affair, his intentions, and whether he had any inkling of the storm he had helped unleash in my life. Adrian's responses were measured, his voice cool and detached, as if he were discussing a trivial matter rather than the unraveling of a man's soul. Yet, as the dialogue progressed, I began to perceive a subtle shift in his tone. There was a hint of regret, a recognition that the affair was not solely driven by lust or opportunism. In his guarded manner, he admitted that he had fallen under the spell of Rebecca's charm, that he had seen in her a spark of the passion and freedom that he himself had long been denied. It was a confession that only deepened the complexity of the situation. His words, though laced with self-interest, hinted at a deeper narrative, one in which both he and Rebecca were entangled in a dance of longing and disillusionment. As I left the bar that night, a storm of conflicting emotions raged within me. The confrontation had not provided the clear-cut answers I had hoped for, instead, it had opened a door to a labyrinth of conflicting truths. I began to understand that the affair was not a simple betrayal, but a convergence of unmet desires, personal failures, and the haunting pursuit of something that neither of us had fully grasped. It was a moment of reckoning, a painful but necessary confrontation with the imperfections that lay hidden beneath the surface of our lives. In the weeks that followed, I embarked on an internal journey to come to terms with the shattered illusions of my past. I revisited the memories of my life with Rebecca, re-examining each moment with a critical eye. The laughter we once shared now seemed tinged with a bittersweet melancholy, as I recalled how our dreams had gradually eroded beneath the weight of unspoken resentments and unmet expectations. I began to question not only the fidelity of Rebecca's heart but also my own role in allowing our relationship to drift into realms of secrecy and silence. It was during one of these reflective moments that I received a letter. The envelope was plain, its contents written in Rebecca's unmistakable handwriting. In it, she confessed her regret and sorrow, a poignant acknowledgement of the mistakes she had made. She spoke of a deep-seated loneliness and a yearning for validation that had driven her into the arms of another. The letter was both an apology and a lament, a testament to the complexity of human frailty and the elusive nature of happiness. Reading her words, I felt a surge of conflicting emotions, anger, sorrow, and an unexpected, fragile empathy. This confession forced me to reconsider the narrative I had constructed in the wake of betrayal. I realized that, despite the hurt, there were layers of pain on both sides, a shared tragedy of unfulfilled dreams and silent suffering. The letter was not a panacea for the wounds inflicted, but it was a start, a step toward understanding the multifaceted nature of our downfall. The realization that the situation was not entirely black and white, that it was imbued with shades of gray, marked a turning point in my quest for closure. As I sit here now, reflecting on the turbulent events that have redefined my life, I find myself caught between the desire for retribution and the need for healing. The path ahead remains uncertain, strewn with the remnants of shattered trust and lingering hope. In this ongoing reckoning, I have learned that truth is a complex tapestry, woven from threads of memory, regret, and sometimes, unexpected compassion. And though the journey has been marked by pain, it is also one of self-discovery, a painful yet necessary pilgrimage toward reclaiming the pieces of a broken self. I realize that confronting the past, with all its heartache and confusion, is the only way to move forward. The road to redemption is long and fraught with peril, but I am resolved to walk it, however uncertain the destination. Each step I take is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a silent pledge that even in the face of profound betrayal, there remains the possibility of forgiveness, growth, and ultimately, renewal. The days that followed my confrontation with Adrian marked the beginning of a transformation I had not anticipated. In the wake of heated encounters and revelations, a subtle shift began to manifest in my understanding of the betrayal that had upended my life. I found myself oscillating between despair and a cautious optimism, unsure whether the turbulent journey ahead would lead to ruin or redemption. In the quiet moments of early morning, as the city was still shrouded in sleep, I would walk the empty streets, my thoughts racing with the complexities of my situation. I recalled every conversation, every fleeting glance, and the whispered confessions that seemed to hover in the background of my memories. The more I reflected, the more I realized that the root of the pain was not solely Rebecca's actions but also the hidden fissures in our relationship that had long been ignored. I had been so absorbed in the routine of daily life that I had failed to nurture the fragile bond that once united us. As autumn deepened, the vibrant hues of falling leaves mirrored the gradual decay of the life I once knew. I began to seek solace in unexpected places, a forgotten park bench, the echo of distant laughter, even the murmur of a street musician playing a melancholy tune. Each small moment became a reminder that life, however painful, continued to unfold, offering new perspectives on both loss and hope. I realized that in the wake of betrayal there was room for transformation. The pain was profound, yet it carried the seeds of renewal. One chilly evening, while seated in a modest diner that overlooked a bustling square, I encountered a stranger whose presence would alter the course of my journey. His name was Marcus, a gentle soul with kind eyes and an unassuming smile. Marcus, a therapist by profession, had once been a confidant to many who faced emotional turmoil, and something about his quiet strength resonated with me. We struck up a conversation over a shared meal, and soon my story spilled out in fragmented pieces, a tapestry of heartbreak, anger, and confusion. Marcus listened intently, his gaze conveying empathy and understanding without a word of judgment. In our conversations, Marcus urged me to look beyond the immediate pain and consider the lessons that adversity might impart. He spoke of forgiveness not as an act of concession but as a form of liberation, an essential step in reclaiming one's identity from the shadows of past wounds. His measured words stirred something deep within me, prompting me to question the nature of my suffering and to search for meaning amid the chaos. Could the betrayal that shattered my world also serve as a catalyst for personal growth? This question clung to my thoughts, persistent and unyielding. Over the following weeks, I began to adopt a more reflective approach to my days. I kept a journal where I chronicled not only the events that haunted me but also the fleeting moments of beauty that emerged amid despair. The pages soon filled with a mosaic of raw confessions, tentative plans for the future, and the budding realization that healing was possible. In writing, I discovered a sanctuary, a place where my turbulent emotions could be both acknowledged and transformed into something constructive. Then, one afternoon, as I was rereading my journal entries, I received an unexpected invitation. It came from Rebecca, a carefully penned message asking for a meeting at the old park where we once spent countless hours dreaming of a future together. The invitation was ambiguous, laced with regret and longing that I had not heard from her in months. Although hesitant, I sensed that this meeting might offer a final chance to confront the myriad questions that had tormented me since the betrayal. The day of our meeting was overcast, the sky a brooding canvas that matched the somber mood in my heart. Arriving at the park, memories of happier times washed over me. There, on a familiar bench beneath an ancient oak tree, sat Rebecca. The sight of her evoked a torrent of conflicting emotions, regret, sorrow, and a lingering affection that time had not entirely erased. She appeared changed, her eyes reflecting both the heavy burden of her mistakes and a tentative hope for redemption. For a long, silent moment, we simply sat together, the rustle of leaves underscoring the unspoken tension between us. Rebecca was the first to break the silence. She acknowledged the deep hurt her actions had inflicted on both of us and spoke of her inner battles, the loneliness, the desperate need for validation, and the overwhelming sensation of losing herself in a life that no longer felt genuine. Her measured tone, imbued with remorse, did little to erase the scars of betrayal but did hint at a desire to mend what was broken. In that moment, I realized that our downfall was not the product of a single misstep, but of many small moments of neglect and unspoken pain. As our conversation unfolded, accusations gradually gave way to a tentative exploration of accountability and healing. We revisited shared memories, both joyful and sorrowful, acknowledging the happiness we once knew as well as the silent decay that crept in over time. Rebecca's voice trembled as she recounted the days leading up to the affair, the overwhelming loneliness, the inner turmoil, and the eventual surrender to a desire to escape. I, in turn, confessed my own failures, my complacency, my inability to perceive the subtle warnings, and my reluctance to express the unspoken words that had long festered between us. The meeting ended without a clear resolution, leaving us with more questions than answers. Yet, as I walked away from the park that day, I felt a spark of clarity amid the confusion. The encounter had not repaired the fractures of our past, but it had illuminated the need for a deeper understanding of ourselves. I realized that the journey toward healing was not about assigning blame but about embracing our shared humanity and the imperfections that defined us. In the ensuing weeks, I continued my sessions with Marcus, whose guidance helped me navigate the labyrinth of emotions I faced. Each session became a stepping stone toward reclaiming my inner strength and rediscovering a sense of purpose. Though the process was slow and often painful, every small victory bolstered my resolve. I began to see that the agony, as profound as it was, had awakened a latent resilience within me, a resilience that would serve as the foundation for the next chapter of my life. Standing now at the crossroads between despair and hope, I understand that the path forward demands acceptance of my own complexities. The betrayal irreversibly altered the contours of my existence, yet it also carved out a space for introspection and renewal. As I continue this journey, I vow to honor both the lessons learned and the promise of a future unburdened by the shadows of the past. With each new day, I edge closer to a turning point where forgiveness, growth, and the reclamation of my identity will no longer be distant dreams but achievable realities. In the quiet solitude of the night, as I pen these thoughts by the soft glow of a desk lamp, I feel hope stir within me, a fragile yet persistent ember whispering of a future where the scars of yesterday might eventually transform into the strength of tomorrow. Today, I stand poised at the turning point, ready to embrace a new beginning forged in the crucible of pain, tempered by introspection, and illuminated by the belief that even the deepest wounds can give way to renewal. As the seasons shifted and winter's chill gave way to the tentative warmth of early spring, I found myself standing at the threshold of a new life, a life that had emerged from the wreckage of betrayal and heartache. The journey through despair and introspection had transformed me, carving out a resilient spirit from the fragments of my shattered past. In the quiet solitude of a crisp morning, as I stepped outside my modest home, I sensed that every ending had, in fact, been a precursor to a new beginning. The days that followed were filled with deliberate acts of rebuilding, a slow, methodical process that required both courage and vulnerability. I enrolled in a creative writing workshop at a local community center, eager to channel the tumultuous emotions that had once threatened to consume me into art and storytelling. There, amidst a circle of strangers who had their own battles to share, I discovered that pain was a universal language, one that could be transformed into beauty and connection. Each word I wrote served as a reminder of the strength that had emerged from the darkness, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. In the midst of this healing process, I reconnected with old friends and forged new relationships, each encounter a step away from the isolation of my past. One particularly meaningful friendship blossomed with a kindred soul named Jonathan, a musician whose gentle melodies seemed to resonate with the cadence of my own heart. Jonathan's quiet optimism and unwavering belief in second chances sparked a newfound sense of hope within me. Together, we spent long afternoons wandering through sunlit parks and engaging in deep conversations about life, art, and the nature of forgiveness. In these shared moments, I began to realize that the wounds inflicted by betrayal could slowly mend when nourished by understanding and genuine human connection. With each passing day, the echoes of my former life grew fainter, replaced by the vibrant rhythm of renewal. I found solace in the routine of daily life, the comforting predictability of sunrise and sunset, the familiar chatter of neighbors, and the gentle hum of the city awakening from its slumber. Even as I continued to grapple with memories of Rebecca and the pain of our unraveling, I recognized that these recollections were now part of a larger tapestry of experience, one that included both sorrow and the possibility of redemption. I learned to honor the past without allowing it to dictate my future, embracing the lessons it had taught me while eagerly anticipating the promise of tomorrow. One particularly transformative evening, I attended a small, intimate concert where Jonathan performed alongside his band at a local venue. The music filled the air with a raw intensity that stirred long-dormant emotions within me. As I listened, I felt a profound sense of release, each note a step toward letting go of the burdens I had carried for so long. In that moment, surrounded by strangers united by a shared appreciation for art, I experienced a surge of liberation. It was as if the collective energy of the crowd had washed away years of pain, leaving behind a clean slate upon which I could rewrite my narrative. This cathartic experience reaffirmed my belief that redemption was not a distant dream but a tangible reality waiting to be embraced. The process of healing was neither linear nor swift. It was marked by setbacks and moments of lingering doubt. There were days when the scars of betrayal would resurface unexpectedly, a familiar scent, a half-remembered phrase, or the sight of an old photograph could momentarily transport me back to a time of anguish. Yet, with every relapse into sorrow, I reminded myself that healing was a journey, not a destination. I sought guidance from Marcus, whose wisdom had once illuminated the darkest corners of my soul, and gradually, I learned to accept that vulnerability was an essential part of the human experience. In his gentle counsel, I found reassurance that every stumble was simply a step toward a more profound understanding of myself and the intricate tapestry of life. In the quiet hours of night, when the world was hushed and introspection reached its peak, I would reflect on the metamorphosis that had brought me to this point. The pain, betrayal, and subsequent journey of recovery had irrevocably altered the course of my existence, yet in that alteration lay the seeds of transformation. I began to write again, not as a chronicle of despair, but as a celebration of resilience and the endless capacity for renewal. My writings became a bridge between the person I once was and the individual I was striving to become, a testament to the idea that even the deepest wounds could eventually yield to forgiveness and growth. Looking back on the tumultuous events that had once defined my life, I now saw them in a different light. What had seemed like an insurmountable tragedy had, over time, revealed its hidden blessings. The betrayal, with all its cruelty, had forced me to confront uncomfortable truths about myself and my relationships. It had pushed me to seek a deeper understanding of love, commitment, and the inherent imperfections that make us human. In the process, I discovered that true redemption was not found in the erasure of past mistakes, but in the courage to accept them and to use them as a foundation for building a better future. Now, as I stand at the precipice of a new chapter, I feel a sense of gratitude for the journey that brought me here. I am not defined by the scars of betrayal, nor confined by memories of past love. Instead, I am a mosaic of experiences, each fragment, both painful and joyful, contributing to the complex tapestry of my life. With every sunrise, I am reminded that each day is a new opportunity to forge ahead, to embrace change, and to continue evolving into a version of myself that is both wiser and more compassionate. In this final phase of my journey, I have come to understand that redemption and rebirth are not destinations to be reached but ongoing processes, perpetual cycles of loss, learning, and renewal. As I close this chapter of my life, I do so with a heart that is open, resilient, and ready to welcome whatever challenges and triumphs the future may hold. The echoes of my past, though still faintly audible, no longer dictate the rhythm of my existence. Instead, they serve as a reminder of the strength that lies within and the endless possibilities that await a soul willing to heal.